This video has 15 tips to help you begin to work out whether or not an influencer that you follow in the dog training space on social media has advice that is generally worth following. Here we go. Number 1, qualifications don't tell the whole story. There are plenty of people with 400 certificates that couldn't train a bored dog to dig a hole, but they don't hurt, and what they can do is actually stop a dog trainer from having some really wacky ideas that aren't backed up by the whole of what's understood about dogs and dog training. So it's a good starting place. 2, longevity in the industry. A lot of dog trainers come and a lot of dog trainers go. Not so many stick around. So longevity in the industry is a great metric to consider, but it doesn't tell the whole story. Moving us on to 4, progress through experience. Does that trainer's history demonstrate progression in their craft? Perhaps they've won some titles in a sport along the way. Perhaps they've talked about their journey with their dogs. Perhaps you're seeing the work that their dogs have done. Perhaps you've seen them develop a puppy. Perhaps you've seen them take a rescue dog and do something amazing with that dog. These are things that are worth paying attention to, because longevity without any consistent ongoing improvement, well, you can be like some dog trainers and do the same bullshit for 25 years. Is that useful to you as a dog owner? Probably not. 8, what was the last seminar or workshop that they attended? I know it's true here in Australia that we import a lot of dog trainers to try and get knowledge all over the world. In many places all over the world, dog trainers are getting together to try and learn off people that collectively those participants consider to have knowledge that they want to gain. It's incredibly popular. There's definitely stuff that your dog trainer can learn online, but you would also want to see that they're out there doing something practical. And then when they attended that seminar, did they attend with their own dog? All of these things are worth considering, and over a period of time, you would want to see a history of ongoing learning, formal, online, and in person. Next point. 6, a genuine connection to the industry. This is not a hard and fast rule, but generally speaking, what you'll find is that communities build in dog training, and you'll find dog trainers that are connected to a community of other dog trainers have a level of accountability, for better or for worse. And you'll also tend to find that when dog trainers liaise with other dog trainers, those dog trainers will comment on their videos. So you can go and look at those dog trainers that are perhaps saying, oh, that's a wonderful video, and have a look at the stuff that they do. So you can start to get a sense of the circles that these people roll in. 7, 11. Touched on this before, but the trainers work with their own dogs is very, very important. One common thing that you'll hear trainers say is, oh, I've got a rescue dog and he's not food motivated. Well, wouldn't it be a cool thing to try and get your dog food motivated? Does their dog show the capacity to learn in multiple modes of learning, or are they simply yanking and cranking their dog into position all the time? Do you only see them work with a clicker and you don't see them work with electronics? Do you only see them work with electronics, but you don't see them work with profound markers, which we'll touch on later? These things are worth considering when you're trying to assess the validity of this person's advice. 6, it's great to see a dog trainer with a Malinois, a Dutch Shepherd, or like a sparky little Staffy, but what they do with their own dog doesn't tell the only story, because you want to be coached. You want to take advice from this person. So you want to have a look at what kind of capacity they've demonstrated to teach their clients with a variety of dogs. Maybe it's greyhounds, maybe it's German Shepherds, multiple breeds of dogs, multiple kinds of temperaments, multiple kinds of problems, multiple modes of learning. How do those clients feel about that? Perhaps the trainer posts video of their clients' work because they're proud of them. Do you see some variety in that? It's worth considering. Ultimately, that I can train a dog well does not mean that you can train a dog well just because I coach you, because coaching is its own thing, so consider that. 9, does the work that the trainer posts to advertise their services or to big up themselves in a business sense indicate that there is a process that they follow? Or do you tend to find that these trainers have the same solution for pretty much all problems and repetitively giving their advice. Like if the answer to everything is pull up on the leash and turn left, there's probably not a lot of substance there. And if there is a lot of substance there, they're not doing a very good job of sharing it. So then you'd probably be better to consider other sources and bump them up your list. Which brings us to our next point. 11. 15. I touched on this. Is the advice always the same? Wouldn't be so amazing if it was, would it? That would mean that all dogs think, learn, feel, have the problems that they have and behave in exactly the same way. So you'd need all of that to be true to train every single dog the same way, wouldn't you? I think that answers itself. 12. You would want to be able to see that the trainers that you're following, that you're giving your attention to, that you intend to have help you with your dog via their advice, can produce happy, spirited performances, accurate performances from a number of dogs. Ideally their own dogs too, but also have their clients do the same. Why? Because it shows that they understand something about the nuance involved in dog training, and even if they post work that looks very different to that in other circumstances, at least it gives you a clue that they do understand some of the underlying principles about motivation and optimism and emotion as it applies to producing those performances. It's an important thing. 6. 13. Does the trainer that you're watching show that they can use clear markers associated with high levels of positive reinforcement in their work? Perhaps every video doesn't show that. Probably shouldn't be the focus of every video, but they should be able to show that. They should be able to show that with a dog that doesn't have all these problems that the other dogs they work with they have good dog training fundamentals that they pass on to the people that they work with. Because if they don't understand that stuff, if their training doesn't show it, then you should be suspicious and you should consider lowering their priority in your feed. And especially if you want to work with them to get help with your dog. 14. I've touched on this, but do they understand emotion? Does the way that they handle an anxious dog look different to the way that they handle a dog behaving aggressively? Because sometimes they can be the same, but very often they're different. Very often you won't see this with one-size-fits-all dog trainers. It's not going to be a part of what they do because they have a relatively limited skill set. But understanding emotion is super important because just like in humans, emotion drives a lot of behavior. Fail to consider the emotion, and guess what? You will fail to understand the behavior. 2, do they talk about dominance a lot? Like a lot. Do they consistently refer to dominance as a motivator for behavior? Do they consistently describe that you should be dominant in the way that you behave towards your dog? Do they talk about submission a lot? Because let me give you the hot tip. Dominance and submission are real, but they are not the motivator for behavior that many very simple-minded dog trainers, undereducated dog trainers out there believe them to be. And if the trainer that you're looking at is doing that, bump them down the priority on your social media feed, do yourself a favor and get some better influencers. And now, here's a bonus point. 13. Speaking of influencers, what are this trainer's influences? If you were to ask them, whose work would they hold in high esteem? Do they ever reference other trainers that show great work? It's worth considering because anybody that is anybody in the dog training world got here on the shoulders of giants because nobody made this shit up. Now, these are just guidelines that you can use to start to get an idea of what you're looking at, especially if you don't know. You may find a very good trainer that doesn't tick 1 or 2 of these boxes, 3 or 4 of these boxes. I'm not the dog training police. I'm just a dog trainer myself. I'm not the authority that deigns people good or shit or in between. But the more you know, the less likely you are to get conned. And these are points worth considering. And I hope that they help you.